Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Keynes, and Ed Mann.
Hello and welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for all potential budding web devs / people who are in web dev / people who just like listening to random people talk about stuff to do with the web and their lives.
Can't you repeat that sentence? Try and say that again.
My name's Ed, and I am joined this lovely Sunday evening, by the lovely Fraser Hart.
Hello.
And the lovely Lewis Keynes.
Hello.
And they both seem to be wearing very warm jumpers today.
It's cold outside, man.
It's
like
outside.
2 degrees or something,
But is
isn't
it warm inside, though?
It's very warm inside, yeah.
It is here. Happy New Year, guys.
Yes, Happy New Year to you too, sir.
My first
Have we recorded one? I think this is my first one this year.
No, we recorded one last week, but Lou wasn't on, so this is the first one that Lou's been on.
Right.
It's my first one for about a
Welcome
month.
to 2015, Lewis.
Well, thank you very much.
How's it treating you?
My 2015 has started, what's the word? Deceptively quietly.
Deceptively quietly.
I'm under no illusions of it remaining that way, certainly this week. I think my busy working year is about to commence, because I think I'm getting briefed on about 4 things tomorrow. So
Ooh.
Before I know it, it's going to be 2016, I think. But it's good.
And you'll still be waiting for clients to come back to you with content, because that's what they do.
Well, this is good. I think 2 or 3 of the things, I think I've got everything I need to go through to a finish. So
really,
that's good.
That's
and rare.
Boom.
That just never happens. So yeah, no, that's good. And so I've got about 4 things on the go. They're all, I think, 2 to start, 2 brand new ones to start, 2 that my boss has now got feedback and content and things that he can feed back into me. So yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll tomorrow.
Sweet.
So,
Can you spill any of the deets on any of them, or are they all under wraps?
Trying to think, what are they? One of them is a landscaping thing coming up.
Ooh, are you going to be using your framework for this?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we'll come to that, I guess.
Are we coming to this in the podcast?
Possibly. Yeah, I'm still using it, and I'm still developing it. I'm building a CMS with it, which is going well, but I've just run into some difficulties with it recently, and been doing a lot of learning and stuff this year that's just making me rethink of a few things. So I don't know whether I'm going to continue with it or not, but we'll get to that.
Okay, very nice. And Fraser, how's your week been?
My week has been very good, thank you.
London still treating you well?
I'm loving it, yeah. No, it's really, really good. So this week I've been working on a bonus game for a slot game. Ooh. So you know when you play like slot machines and stuff, and then you get like 3 wild things, and you go off onto like a separate bonus game, and then that's where all the money starts coming in. I've been working on a game, one of those games using a framework called Fraser.js. If you're familiar with that,
no. What
Fraser.js. That's actually, yeah, it's been really confusing, because like obviously I've got a bit of not an unusual name, but not a very common name. And then because we've started using this Phaser.
Oh, Phaser and Fraser.
Yeah, Phaser. So, yeah, whenever the guys behind me are having discussions about Phaser, every time I hear like Phaser, I'm like,
you're like, hello,
it's not me. But yeah, so I've been working on this Phaser thing, and it basically allows you to pretty easily build HTML5 games in Canvas / WebGL. Nice. It will basically select the correct renderer based on your on your browser or your device, and it'll feed it out either in WebGL or in HTML5, and that's been really, really interesting. So I did a couple of days worth of tutorials on that, and then went straight into building the game, and it's coming along really, really good.
Wow.
And we're also using another plugin called Dragon Bones, which is something that plugs into Flash. So what that's letting the graphics guys do is basically they actually draw the animation within Flash and then export it through this Dragon Bones plugin. So what you get from Dragon Bones and Flash is you'll get like a sprite sheet with all the different assets of the character. So say, for instance, they were animating a dragon, which is like the standard way of the character of Dragon Bones anyway, which is what they kind of do the tutorials with. So if you export this dragon having like walking or dancing or something, it will basically extract all the individual assets. So like the head and the arms and the elbows and the fingers and the toes and the eyes and the eyebrows and stuff, and it'll put that into a separate sprite sheet. And then you'll get 2 pieces of JSON. So you'll get a piece of JSON which kind of describes the sprite sheet. So it will say, okay, from X position 0 to X position 82 and Y position 0 to Y position 54. And then the box around that, that's the area for the head, so that Phaser knows that that's where the head icon is. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So you've got all the individual parts within the single sprite sheet, so obviously it keeps the load times down and stuff.
One request, and that's
exactly, yeah. And then there's a separate JSON, which basically is the kind of description of all the animations. So the graphics guys will say, okay, well, here's an animation of the dragon dancing. So they'll have a whole list of stuff under like dance or whatever, and then it'll have all like the kind of the positions of where it has to tween the various body parts to.
So they still build it in Flash then? So
it doesn't export as Flash. Yeah, so it's created in Flash, but you don't get any. You don't have to use Flash to actually. Yeah,
and
so
all
it
that
spits
weird
out.
Stuff.
Yeah, it spits out 2 pieces of JSON and a PNG.
Wow.
Which is just awesome. Yeah, so all the animation is kind of done by the graphics guys, so I don't need to worry about. Okay, well, like 10 seconds.
Yeah, you kind of have to work that out.
So it's really, really cool.
I'm just looking at it online. Yeah, the Dragon Bones and Fraser.
Yeah.
Wow. They've got cool websites as well.
Fraser's website's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. Like, just the graphics.
With this then, so is this kind of like a framework then to build, as you say, like build these HTML5 games?
It is, yeah. So it's got physics engines and stuff in there, so you can apply, if you put a character or a sprite or something, or they call them sprites for like stuff that you want to apply physics to. So you can put a graphic on the screen as a sprite, and then you can apply physics. There's like 3 different physics engines, but I've only been working on Arcade, which is like the basic low level one, because we don't need, for what I'm building, we don't need fancy physics and stuff.
Cool.
And then you can kind of it automatically programs all your collisions and your gravity and all this kind of stuff, and it's really, really cool. So you can just say, okay, I want to put an image here, and within the game engine I want to apply gravity of 1.5, which will be like 1.5 times the Earth's gravity, so obviously it will fall. Fall like that, and then it'll fall, and if you don't have anything underneath, it will just fall off the screen. But if you have like a wall or a sprite that it's going to land on, and you can like set collisions up for that, so when it hits that, it knows what to do,
and then jumps back up maybe. Or
yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, really, really cool, and a lot simpler than you think it would be. So yeah,
and this is all written in JavaScript. I see that they've actually got
JavaScript.
They got a TypeScript guide as well, which is quite cool.
I've not seen that actually.
So TypeScript, Java is it's so strange. You've got PureScript, TypeScript, and JavaScript. JavaScript's like, obviously our bread and butter, lovely.
Yep.
And then you've got this preprocessor called TypeScript and PureScript, and they are pretty much a typed equivalent. So you can use types in them. Like it's a strictly typed language.
Okay.
Well, PureScript's actually a bit different. I think PureScript's more like Haskell, but that's pretty cool that they actually allow you to use that as well. So. Wow, how are you enjoying JavaScript, by the way?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, is it nice being away from PHP and the back end and just...
It really is, yeah. But I'm kind of my big concern is... Well, it's not even a big concern. It's kind of... Because I really enjoy the front end and it's where I'm strongest anyway. But my only concern is if I'm away from PHP for so long, then I'll lose it.
Or not lose it, but not
get it.
I mean,
exactly, yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. You've kind of got the best now. You can just start using all the hipster cool things.
Yeah, like I've not touched Node.js yet, and I don't think, in my current role anyway, I don't think I'll ever get a chance to use that just because it is purely front end. But yeah, I love it. Like the new job, cool. It's fantastic. Just
am I right in thinking people are favouring Node over Ruby, aren't they?
I don't know.
It's because of JavaScript, isn't it? Really, I mean, everyone loves JavaScript now. And with JavaScript, so how's your development flow then? What do you do then? Do you develop in raw JavaScript, pure JavaScript, or do you just have pre-processing like CoffeeScript?
No, I don't use any. Or no one in the office uses CoffeeScript. I said if you want to use CoffeeScript, you can use CoffeeScript if you want. But I've never touched CoffeeScript.
You might as well learn JavaScript, and any of these extra layers you can learn. As and when, but it's good to know the actual what's happening under the hood.
Definitely, yeah. We use we're not using any CSS processes yet, but I'm kind of introducing, like when my boss is happy for me to kind of run with and push things in any direction that I think could benefit the business. So I've started using less and Sass and stuff on a couple of projects that I've been working on, and they're using like Grunt and everything and Jasmine and testing and stuff. So testing is going to be something that we're going to be spending a lot of time.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how you test these games, like how they.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's a couple of, I think, is it Phantom.js, which is a testing platform which actually physically goes and
because you can things. Actually it has it's a headless web client, isn't it? WebKit client.
That's
you can actually
right.
run these things and see what they output and how they work.
That's right, yeah. So at the moment, we're not using that at the moment because testing is something that's fairly new on the front end for the company, but they're using Jasmine to test because most of the stuff is written in Backbone. So we're using Jasmine to test the view logic and the model logic, but obviously you can't test the templates with that, but you can test that, okay, well, this is supposed to go off and get this data back, so given these parameters and what have you. So it's kind of really good. And then you've used Jenkins for building and deployment and stuff, I guess.
Yep.
So it's really nice on the Jenkins dashboard saying, okay, well, the last time this was built, you've got like a little orange light, which means that like 50% of the tests have passed, or 50% coverage of the test scripts and stuff. So it's trying to get like all the green lights and stuff, which is it's interesting.
Is that testing the Jasmine stuff? So it
is, yeah.
That's
yeah.
Cool.
So there's a grunt file that every time we compile, it runs through this grunt file. So it's got like JS lint and CSS lint and stuff, and it runs through the Jasmine test scripts as well. So if anything fails there, then it won't build, and it won't. You can't make a release from it if it doesn't pass the testing.
And then I suppose this then dumps out and deploys like a nice minified, uglified version that you can then just set up. Push to the server or whatever how you deploy it.
Yeah, which is really good, and it does the image optimization as well. Yes, so it strips all the kind of all the crap out of PNGs and JPEGs and stuff. It's not necessary for the view, but yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
That's so cool, man.
Gulp does that. Gulp's got quite a few things like that.
Yes, it has. Yeah, my boss was saying, well, can we have a look at Gulp, because the grunt file that we've been, or the kind of the standard grunt file we've been using is a bit convoluted and a little bit kind of messy, and there's a lot of stuff in there that we don't need. So we said, well, if we're going to kind of be looking at changing this a little bit, then we might as well look at alternatives like Gulp.
That's it. Yeah,
I think Gulp's brilliant. I use Gulp on everything now.
Yeah, it is really cool, isn't it?
Because you just stick everything in a file, get it running, and then forget about it. Just crack on, and it all compiles really cool. And does everything. Yeah,
and I was actually using CodeKit as well, because I've got my CodeKit license personally. So when I was developing this bonus game for this slot game, or I still am developing it, I was running just for the live reload. And it's absolutely awesome, man. So I had like an iPad and an Android phone and an iPhone and some other thing, and then obviously my web browser and stuff. So as soon as you save, it pipes out to everything. So like you see, like this screen reloads, this screen reloads, this screen reloads, this screen reloads.
That must make development so much easier.
Oh, it really is.
And plus, it looks so awesome because you're like, I'm a real dev, you know. No cool, reloading, no F5 in this, man. Yeah. No control Command R.
Yeah, no, so that's really cool. And then we've joined a five-a-side league in Shoreditch.
Really?
it's good fun, but I'm the worst.
I don't remember you ever saying you were a football fan.
No, I'm a terrible football player, and I'm not much of a football fan. But it's really good, because I just enjoy the competitiveness of it.
Yeah, just like have a bit of exercise and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's really cool, man. But yeah, we played our first game on Thursday, and we got beat 22.
No.
Did you score a goal?
No, I didn't score a goal. I spent most of my time in goal.
Getting scored on.
Yeah, which is a bit
sounds like you had a good game.
Yeah, it was. It was really good fun. But I've not played football. I played for a five-a-side team for a company I was working for over 10 years ago, and then so that was the last time I ever kicked a ball. And then before that, it was probably at school when I was like 14 or 15. So I'm
still fresh in your mind then.
I'm horribly bad at football, but it was awesome fun. Had a great time.
You don't like trip over the ball or anything, do you?
Oh, I had a worse one than that. Like I managed to, this one time, I managed to tackle this fella, and I was like well proud of myself. And there was no one around me, so the ball was like laying there, and I could have just like had a smack. It was like me, the ball, and the goalkeeper. Swung at the ball, completely missed it.
Oh no!
I was like unbelievable because I'm like everyone, and so I still had enough time for another swipe at it. Had another swipe. And I was like a little bit off balance, so that's my excuse for missing it the second time anyway. And then someone came around.
No, you didn't miss it again.
Yeah, no. But I was off balance from the first one because I had to like kind of speed up. I was like, oh crap, like got to get my foot back and have another swing. And then that happened and I missed, and someone ran off with the ball.
I'm just thinking of that viral video that's been going around. I've seen it on Facebook. The guy on the treadmill. The good-looking woman walks past and he checks her out and he loses his feet on the treadmill, falls it over, and as she turns around, he saves it by making it look like he's doing presser.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering what did you do in that situation to try and make it look cool?
I don't think there was anywhere I could have made it look cool. By that time, we'd been playing with them for about 20 minutes, so they knew how poor we were. So
how many goals
as long as you
were
didn't
you
kick
in?
Yourself in the head
That time.
Yeah.
Oh,
how many was I in goal for?
Yeah,
I'd say 6.
That's not too bad then.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't you. It was an even distribution of each of you kind of.
Yeah, but it was good fun. But I'm crap at football.
It's just fun, just doing something.
It is
I guess.
fun.
Yeah.
Definitely sounds like you're loving the new life.
Yeah, the London life, sir.
It is really good. Yeah, it is really good. I am enjoying it. Yeah, it was nice, kind of like looking out. Like, there was it's going to sound so lame, but there was like a lovely sunset, like over the city.
Man,
I could see
cool.
You could see like the Shard and the wheel and stuff. It was cool, man. Yeah, really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's all going good.
Good stuff, man.
How are you, Ed? What's going on at your job?
Yeah, going really well, thanks. What was I doing this week? Lots of like little bits, PHP stuff. At the end of the week, actually got a chance to look at ReactJS Facebook's thing, which looks pretty cool. We're doing a couple of projects in that, and I thought, well, best off actually having a look into it and seeing what it actually does and stuff. And yeah,
this is on the PHP conference, aren't they, doing a talk on that?
Well, because it's a bit weird, because you've got React PHP, which is like the event loop thing, which is the back end stuff, which is tries to like do non-blocking IO and all that stuff. But then you've got ReactJS, which is Facebook's framework for front end views and stuff. And the way that they what happened like a couple of years ago, like 2011, when they made like a massive shift in their chat system from, because it was very messy. Well, that's what they say. It was very messy beforehand. Yeah. And then they thought, well, they need to fix this up. And the way they got around that was like implementing this idea, which instead of being like bi-directional in like their communication with the actual views, so the views would talk to the models and vice versa, it would actually be that it goes through this unidirectional one way. And what you do is you kind of re-render. It sounds weird, but so your state is all stored in these in objects. So you have a state pretty much that you're in, and the view literally just takes that state and displays it, which sounds interesting. So but conceptually, so say like how would I explain it? So you'd like to maybe you're bouncing a ball on the screen, and normally what you would do is you would bounce that ball. You would actually go in and say minus the CSS, and the state would actually be in the DOM while you're doing it. Using something like React, what you do is you actually you store that state actually represented, abstracted out, and then you just have these render methods saying, okay, render the state now, and then it will slowly do it. And what you can then do is it really makes it simple, because that I can render a state at any time without having this weird DOM storing state as well and all this funky stuff. It also means you can actually render this stuff, because it uses a virtual DOM, actually on the server as well, which works quite well, which is quite spiffy. And it also is it's also a hell of a lot easier, like in certain cases, because say like Facebook's one was like their chat system, so you'd have like a notification, and when a message came in, it would have to maybe like highlight the person's like name on the chat message. It would have to add another one, like a 1 or 2, increment the little notification, unread notifications, flash up something, maybe change other things. And there was so much going on that this idea of being able to know exactly what happens at a certain time is really beneficial. That, and there's like a really good article that I picked up, which it's website you may enjoy actually, Fraser, with like the JavaScript stuff. It's called Scotch.io.
Okay.
And like there's a lot of good tutorials on there to do a JavaScript stuff, and this one's really quite cool because it actually builds a real-time Twitter stream with Node and React, and it uses Socket.io. It uses Express, like with Node.js and stuff. So really interesting stuff. Yeah. Also, another thing was ES6, which is the new JavaScript standard that will be coming out. And I'm pretty, not up to date with JavaScript stuff at all, but started to look into it all again. And some of the stuff that's coming in ES6 is so cool. Yeah. Couple of like nice sugar syntax stuff, like the arrow syntax, where you can have a shorthand for quickly making like like simple functions. Like it's easy for predicates and stuff, and mapping and stuff like that. Classes, we actually get classes now, which is just kind of like syntactic sugar for like the prototypical way that you do stuff in JavaScript, but it allows us to think of things in classes, which looks cool. Other things, deconstructing, that's so cool. So the ability to be able to like you do pattern matching, and you'll find all this, and you'll be able to like use this stuff when it eventually comes in. Like this is the trouble. I mean, I don't know about your what is your kind of base case browser for JavaScript stuff where you work now?
I do all my dev in Chrome, so it's probably Chrome, which obviously isn't the safest thing in the world because it's good and everything else is.
Some of the stuff because some of the stuff actually that ES6 has now, you can actually pre-process and go back down to ES5. So some of the cool syntactic sugar stuff you could actually use, and there's actually pre-processors that then say, okay, yeah, you want actually to compile this into ES5. That's cool. Yep. We can then ship you a version that actually works. Yeah. So some of the stuff that you can get now, you can actually use already. Another like modules, so they've been able to solve the issue with because CommonJS and then AMD, and the way that you kind of like store modules and how you kind of store like class, not classes but code. They've kind of come up with a different way for that. It looks very similar to Python's way actually of doing things, which is quite cool. And then also generators, which shameless plug. I did a streams PHP generator blog post this week, and so you can do generators and stuff, which is very cool, which allows you to make kind of like infinite lists, iterables, without having to implement the iterable interface, which is so nice and clean. And that's about it really for me.
Boom.
As usual, I'm smiling and nodding.
But no, Lou, so you say you have a topic that you would like to talk about, that you kind of hinted at the beginning of the podcast.
I guess so in some ways. But one of the things that I've started to do for like a bit of a New Year's resolution thing is really go back into my learning and make sure I'm making time for that, because I'd lost a lot of. I hadn't spent as much time kind of learning new bits and stuff recently, and I've just been. First thing I did was I bought a load of courses on Udemy.com.
Yeah, you said about that today. You said there was like a special offer or something.
It was. I mean, I don't know what they normally are, whether it was all just good salesmanship or something. But there were a load of courses. Some of them like $500 courses, all down to $10 and stuff. So I just bought like 5 or 6 of them. And the Symphony one that I bought is outdated now, unfortunately. So I'm doing one on Tux Plus. But there's a Node one, which I'm yet to start.
Yep.
There's a Photoshop one, because I think Photoshop's amazing, and I find it. I have to use it a lot, but my skills on it aren't as good as I'd like them to be. So I just decided, right, I want to.
It's a whole different world, isn't it?
Yeah, I just decided I want to be awesome on Photoshop, and I just want to be able to do whatever I want to do, and at that moment.
Yeah.
So I'm following this thing, and it's got a bit of freelance advice on it from this guy that's been freelancing. Freelance web designer for stuff, because I'm getting more and more interested in the design side of things, because I work for a design company anyway, and in discussions with them they want me to take more interest in and play more of a part in the design process of the website.
That's cool.
Which makes sense and is in my interest, because we don't have a front and back end team. I'm literally the only guy there doing it, so it's in my interest to be building my knowledge with that sort of thing, and design isn't something that's ever come naturally to me.
Because you're a developer.
I'm exactly the same. Like, if someone gives me, it's just a painful process trying to even think of what might look good, let alone actually make a visual representation in Photoshop.
You're first staring at just that blank white screen. Like, where do you even start?
Yeah.
I find when I'm given a website to do, I can often improve on it quite well, and I've kind of developed a reasonable eye from working there on what to do with websites to make them work a bit better and things like that. But starting from scratch, no, it's a bit of a non-starter with me for some reason. But so I've been working towards that, and there's an Angular one that I'm going to do as well. I absolutely love the stuff I've seen on Angular. I've absolutely loved, and I haven't done enough of it yet to be at the point to bring it into an actual project. So eventually I'm going to get to that. But the in the evenings I've been coming home. I've been doing a lot of Jeffrey Way's tutorials on Laracast, and not much of the actual specific Laravel stuff, but he's been doing some really good series on design patterns and solid principles and stuff like that. So I've been looking at those a lot. They're not something that I'd really looked at in that much detail before.
Yep.
But now I've kind of been going through those and getting an idea of what's going on with them and stuff. I realise, particularly in the framework that I've been making, how many holes in it there are and how it could be so much better. And part of me really loves to go back to scratch and start over with it again. And the other half of me is thinking, well, where would I get the time to do that?
That is
First
the
of all,
issue, isn't it?
we're
It's
all busy
balancing
now.
it out.
But learning Symfony particularly, I think it's amazing. Even just building one small app that I've done so far with it, I can completely see why it still is one of the main top framework. I think Laravel is currently top, but Laravel is Symfony pretty much, isn't it? Oh God, I've probably offended about 1 million people by saying that, but Taylor Rockwell openly admits that anyway, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, it is built a lot on the components, and then I think it's, as you say, it's kind of solving a different need. But I mean, there was one thing actually I remember you saying, when you were playing with Symfony before, and it was kind of all the configuration options you have to set up and everything. Have you kind of got over that, or
last time I tried to do it, I don't think my OOP understanding was at the level it is now, so I found it a lot more simple this time round, and I'm not quite so unused to working with YAML files and stuff. Although there are different ways of doing it, aren't there?
That is the thing. Like, you can use YAML, you can use XML, you can use straight up PHP. It gives you all those options.
Annotation things as well.
Yeah, like in Doctrine, you can then, because I mean, you've been playing with Doctrine, I guess, like with the tutorials, like being able to work out, like, you know, you can use annotations, you can use YAML for that as well, outside of it, and
yeah, just the whole workflow of object-oriented programming. I'm just really my understanding of it starting to get a lot better. And there's things like dependency injection and inheritance and stuff like that. And I'm trying to kind of get to the bottom of, right, am I inheriting things too much now? Should I be using more dependency injection and things like that?
Do I really need to know about this in this class? Is this, you know, am I giving this class too much responsibility if I give it this? And is there a better way of abstracting something? Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it?
I mean, is the idea to try and avoid inheritance wherever possible? Or
you know what? I suppose it goes in and out of fashion. I mean, a lot of people do inheritance, but then it can kind of be a smell because you're kind of you're giving it too much responsibility.
Exactly.
It's like me saying inherit, you know, everything. It's like maybe I don't know, like a fictitious class that needs to do something. Oh, that class has got it. Let's inherit from it, even though I don't need to do anything else. It's like, well, maybe your abstraction isn't right. Maybe you need to inject this in. Maybe you even need to think of maybe that thing it needs to do needs to be abstracted out from that class because it needs to be used in this class as well. It's its own responsibility. And
it is an art, isn't it? Like knowing how to structure projects and how to...
It's so, and it's so kind of... There's no right way because it changes, and a lot of like the thing is that, you know, it'll be right. You've designed something and it'll be right for now, but you know, maybe 5 months down the line when you've added a lot more stuff and the client asks for something different, it's going to be wrong. And it's kind of like this never-ending goal of like perfection, but you never actually get there because things change, and it's all about trade-offs. It's all about, you know, will this work for this way, you know, and you know. You can kind of try to predict the future. I mean, the Yagni thing, you ain't going to need it. It's like, you know, as developers...
Actually, I've not heard that one.
No, me either.
Cool,
like, you know, we think to ourselves, I think with developers, we kind of either... We very much kind of go by the way of the drive principle, which is, you know, the don't repeat yourself. And you're like, oh, no, but...
That's like rule number one, isn't it?
Rule number one, exactly. And you don't repeat yourself. So you make all these abstractions because you don't want to repeat yourself for this one thing. And then you're like, actually... I could just repeat myself in this one instance because actually the trade-off of it is too much. You know, this code is now so much more confusing for someone who's comes in. You know, again, maybe I would abstract it out if it needs to be done again. You know, like you kind of, if you say, oh, I've hit this code too much time here, you know, I've copied that too many times, let's extract that out, you know, and it depends on whether you abstract it out into a service, whether you abstract it out into a private method, whether you abstract it out, you know, into its own abstraction itself, which then needs its own stuff. So it all really does depend, and it's kind of beautiful a bit, like weirdly beautiful and weirdly satisfying when you do kind of design something that you feel solves the problem and expresses the problem in a good way. But like we were saying, like you know, like yesterday, Lou, when we were talking, it's one of those things where, you know, one person could think it's still going the right way, the other person think it's done the wrong way, and it's about kind of, you know, both of you know, people working together to solve that problem. Yeah, you know, like, you know, teamwork and stuff. Like, you know, there has been a couple of things on Twitter, you know, where people kind of critique, they kind of critique people's code over, you know, the Twitters, and you know, I mean, yeah. But
is it always done trying to be helpful, or is it the person doing it trying to make themselves look
I think it's always
the almighty, I know everything?
It's that kind of the yin and yang of constructive criticism to destructive criticism, where, you know, you're just saying it because you want to feel high and mighty, whereas you're not actually helping the problem. And yeah, it's very much kind of, you know... One of the Symfony tutorials I was doing, the first part of it was going on about using PSR2, I think it was, and I started messing around with that, and I was like, well, I can understand everyone wants to recognise what the code looks like, but tab spaces, everything. Are people really hung up on that? Like the actual...
I think people,
they get religious on little things because the big things are too hard to solve, so they like doing, you know what I mean? Like they think...
I use underscore. I don't use camel case. I use underscores, and I'm guessing I should snap out of that now.
No, I mean,
I use underscores on classes, and I use camel case on IDs generally. Like, or for CSS rules, I use underscores, and for anything that I touch with JavaScript,
Yeah. This is like the weird crossroads I'm at now. I've kind of got a framework and a CMS that I've put so much time and effort into, and I'm really proud of it, and a lot of the stuff it does is really good, but I'm aware like now that it's kind of a mixed match of, I don't know, maybe 30% from the last 2-3 months of code, which is probably quite good and much better than stuff I have been writing, but then everything from where I built it from scratch before I kind of my fundamental knowledge improved is, there's probably...
But that's a valuable learning resource, though.
Oh, it really is.
I mean, that's a thing in itself where you could actually teach people, this is the way I did it, this is the way I do it now, and the reasons why. And the next, and it's quite nice because then a year down the line, if you're still using the framework, you can see how much it's changed as well because, of things, it shows you how much you've progressed then, how much you've learned because you think your code's crap, from a year ago or something.
Well, the real dilemma I've got is ethically, like, should I be using it in production at the moment when I know it's not quite right, and I know that I need to go back. I suppose
it's kind of like the trade-offs of, is it... Well,
does it do what it needs to do?
Yeah, does it do what it needs to do, or does it? Because it's the difference between does it do what it needs to do, or does it not? Does it do what it needs to do, but not the way you want to do it now? If that makes sense. Like it's
just the fact that I know the code's not as good as it could be, and I know that I know that I can see the obvious areas where I've had to hack around things like inheritance and things like that to make it work, which obviously aren't ideal.
See, that's like they call it technical debt, which is code that know's not good. Like you know that's not good, but projects do have technical debt. You do a percentage of of code in every code base, which is technical debt, which is technical things that you've done, which you could say it's like a debt really, where like you're in debt, for something. that you're kind of doing something naughty. Well, not really naughty really with money, like getting something for nothing. And that you're going to have to go back to it eventually. But I think all projects have that. I don't think there's ever going to be a project unless it's the project which has no lines of code is going to be the best project because...
How actively do you kind of think about all 7 solid principles when you're coding, or do you actively have all 7 in mind all the time, or do you just mainly focus on a couple? Or
5, isn't there?
Did I say 7? Yeah, I can
That's
count.
Right.
Sorry, I meant
7. The OSI model. If we were the 7 layers of that, I think
7 for. Sorry.
I think of it a lot actually. I mean, the one we think of the most is the single responsibility principle. And then. Yeah, it goes from there, and then you've got the open-close principle. There's a couple of videos that you should actually check out, which are the from the Clean Coders, Uncle Bob, Robert Martin, guy who kind of formed, really he kind of abrogated and formed these concrete 5 principles from his past experience and also other people's. And he talks about each individual one in the videos. I read the book, but I actually prefer videos.
I do.
Yeah,
I
like the video. I find I kind of consume the information better in that form.
Yeah, the thing that's drummed in through all 5 of them is interface, isn't it?
So interface segregation, yeah, definitely that one. And like open close principle is very important. The whole fact that it should be open for change but closed for
modification.
Close modification, yeah. So you can open it, boom. So you'd be able to open it to, add stuff, to inherit it and, to extend it. So open for extension, closed for modification. And then closed because you shouldn't have to change it because once you've got that, you shouldn't change.
Well, the problem, and it seems to be one of the more dangerous ones because if you change, then you are risking break.
But it's hard though because then it goes
it's really hard
because then you're signing yourself up for this thing. And there's another parallel thing which is Greg Young talked about is deletable code. Every bit of code you write should be easily deletable. Because, if you're going to be signing yourself up, oh no, but I can't get rid of it because it's, this rule says that it's closed. It can't be changed, It's like, well, also there's this other kind of like idea that you should be able to delete any code you want as long as you can write it. Any code you write should be, be able to be rewritten in about a day or something. So, yeah, it swings and roundabouts.
I'm really beginning to understand how much of an art form it is.
Yeah, I mean, the one that I do think's the easiest kind of to kind of work with. Single responsibility is very subjective. Liskov substitution principle, which is it's the guy who made Liskov substitution. The idea
that's to do with interfaces, isn't it?
Well, it's to do with contracts kind of thing, where any subclass you use, the parent should be able to use like the parent would. So the example there is, I think it's best to give an example is, say we've got a rubber duck. Okay, this is going to be weird. You've got a rubber duck, so you've got a rubber duck class, and this rubber duck has a class, like it has a name, maybe swim or whatever they do. That method's fine, but I extend that class with a electric rubber duck, and that swim requires.
That's dangerous. That is. You don't want an electric rubber duck.
That swim method requires batteries to operate this thing now, because it's not a rubber duck, kind of different way. Now, to actually do that, when I construct this rubber duck, I have to provide it with some batteries. But that's now gone against the I can't use that in the same way that I could use its parent class. Because the parent class I could use without having to provide it batteries. Now this method requires me to provide batteries. Maybe it throws an exception, and that's where it gets into it. Where this is how I kind of reason with it, is that by extending a class and I'm then re-implementing the method, or I'm extending the method, kind of adding to a method in my subclasses, I cannot throw a exception where my other class would not have thrown an exception,
right?
Because it's not. I can't, that contract's changed. Even though with polymorphism, I should be able to use it as the parent class and expect it to work in the same way, even though under the hoods it's used in the subclass. So, yeah, I think I've explained. I hope I have. Like, it sounds weird. The rubber duck idea for me, but the rubber duck with the electric rubber duck then makes sense, because it's kind of like, there's a dependency now that on batteries, and I don't know why. Maybe that's helpful.
I thought it was a brilliant example, actually.
But yeah, and then of course you've got the interface segregation, and that's the idea that in compiled languages, really, it takes a long time if you've got a big code base to change things and to deploy things. And if you change one thing and then it requires you to change a lot of things, compile a lot of things and then deploy them, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And also it's about not letting people know too much about you. Because, so say in the case of this rubber duck, again, and I'm passing in some batteries. Now, I could pass in some AA batteries. I could pass in a big old, power mains battery. Now, I don't care what it is, as long as it's got maybe a, I don't know, like withdraw method, which would a charge, or a withdraw method that gives me the. So
I'm doing my best to help you.
I will pass in a interface which has, and these, all these different battery types will implement this interface, and all I care about is having this charge method. Because if I know too much about it, say now I'm like, this battery, it can pass in, and then I think, actually, I want it to use, I know it's now a power mains battery, so I'm going to use this other method. Well, that actually then breaks it, because then it knows too much about the other class. Because if I want to change the other class, I now need to know I need to change this class. So it's all about kind of these contracts, these small finite contracts, and integration of separating these contracts out, and then they can implement multiple contracts if they want. But you will only know about the methods you need to know about, not the whole class.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. That is the weirdest.
Yeah, no, it does.
I wanted to do like a solid
the video I watched.
I really want to do like a solid principles kind of talk thing, but it's so I think I still don't understand them 100%. So I want to tell people.
Problem is you could find yourself just never writing anything, because you kind of get one line into a bit of code. You're like, oh no, hang on, that risk's not conforming to.
It kind of, you go by the fact of, but I'm breaking these rules, this is awful code, but it's like, actually it's working, and it is working, if it's doing the job they want. And that's the pragmatic approach, where, look, I will work and I will do as much as I can, and I will abide by these principles as much as I can, but also I need to weigh that with the fact of how complex this implementation will be, and the trade-offs of, should I abstract it out now, should I abstract it out later, should I never even bother abstracting it out because it's not going to be valuable to the to solving the problem. And then it goes into this whole weird thing like business value. Is it valuable to the business that I break this out? Because maybe if I don't break this out, eventually we'll get this technical debt, which is awful, or will it not matter? And maybe this code will be deleted in a week where we don't need it. So what's the point of abstracting out? And it's very wishy-washy. Very much. It's part of the reason why I like algorithms so much, because it's like algorithms make sense, they do their job, and you can kind of work out. But with this type of design stuff, it's very much kind of art form. It's like what people and like what the problem is, and what what you need to solve and how you need to solve it, and how much time you've got given, and how much you know now to how much other people know, and anyway, that kind of rambling on there.
No,
That's good.
It's interesting, and it's complex stuff, but it's very much a focal point of what I'm learning at the moment.
It's good, man. You'll love it, honestly. This video series is just amazing, and the book Clean Coders, I've actually got a copy of it. I could give you a real paper copy. So it really is worthwhile. Really is. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Fraser's doing a lot of learning as well. I don't know if it's an age thing, but I do really enjoy the learning curve.
Oh, I really do. Yeah, it's
amazing.
It can be very, very frustrating, but it's
that
so
it's that feeling of I don't know
rewarding.
anything to then actually I now know this.
Yeah, it's like no crap. Actually, I get it now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then I don't even get there's never even when I seem to be learning stuff, I never seem to have like the epiphany moment of that's how it's done. Yeah, now I get it. It's always a case of like I'll be working on something else, and then it has to implement this thing that I was trying to learn, and I'll do it, and I'll think. 10 minutes later, I'll be like, hang on a second, I just did that. And that's my mind. Like I don't have this kind of big light bulb.
The aha moment.
Yeah, so if I do that, I never have that. It's always a case of okay, well apparently I know that now. Like
it just clicks. It would be nice if you did just level up, but you never level up. You never get that feeling of like, I've leveled up. It just kind of
that was like my epiphany the other day when I WhatsApped you and said, Ed, I've just used an anonymous function. And I actually knew what I was using it for.
And you used it for the problem you were trying to solve, and it's pretty cool, isn't it? That
I don't know why it took so long for my head to get around them. I mean, now I'm there,
these stumbling
and I had to use a closure as well because I needed to get a user ID.
Yes.
So I was like, right, I need the user ID available inside of here. Oh yeah, that's probably a closure. Let's see if it is, and it was. So,
boom. Yeah, but that's the genius. That's the cool thing about learning. It's like the gift that keeps on giving because
it is, yeah.
You're always going to be able to learn, and it's so much fun. That's what I love being in this industry because you always get to learn. Yeah. And it kind of is a drug to learn this stuff because it kind of there's always so much you can learn. There's always something else.
It would get very boring very fast if
I know.
we didn't get to do new stuff.
And that's the nice thing about working in places and also in your own free time is then having these resources online to be able to learn because it's so cool. Man,
that's why I'm deliberately making time out of my day every day to make sure I'm doing these things.
And I think that's really good. I think
because it's very easy to stand still.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it can be kind of easy to set kind of become complacent. But if you kind of, especially if you look online, if you follow people online, if you follow people in the real world, and if they're doing things and you kind of I don't know if you're like me, I want to if someone else knows it and I don't know it, it's like I really want to know that now.
Yeah.
I've just sent you a random link that I found this week. It's from the Atom.io project, which is the GitHub's own text editor.
Oh yeah. And I still never got my thing for that. I did apply.
Did you really not?
No.
I don't know if it's actually just free now. I think you can just go on there. But this is quite cool.
Emoticons.
Yeah, this is quite cool. So they use Git messages. They do all the the things you normally would do in a Git commit, like use the present tense, use imperative mood, so move cursor to, not moves cursor to, limit the first line to 72 characters. Reference issues and pull requests liberally, and then they just come up with this, which is I think genius. Is consider starting the commit message with the applicable emoji, and they've got lipstick when improving the format structure of the code, so people can just look at this racehorse when improving the performance, lock when dealing with security, fire when removing code or files, bug when fixing a bug. Checkered flag when fixing something on Windows, Apple when fixing something on Mac OS X, Penguin when fixing something on Linux. I just think it's clever. These little emoticons will give a lot of information, a lot of context quickly for what you do. I think it's just clever.
I really like it.
I've just clicked on the link that you pasted in as well.
The use ES6 today.
You look a lot like Dr. Axel Rushmeyer.
Axel Rushmeyer
on there.
I've not seen it.
Is that?
I do. Yeah, we've both got no hair.
Hello, Doctor.
There's a resemblance.
Oh yeah. This was something that one of my colleagues dug out last weekend and sent the link around. I've not actually had a proper look at it, but just when Ed was talking about ECMA 6.6.
This kind of gives you a rundown of things. That's
and it lets you use it. I don't know if it's a. I'm going to use a word that I don't even know what it means. I don't know if it's a polyfill. Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. No,
that's the one.
I mean, polyfill actually is like the brand thing that we have for filling up holes.
Yep.
In Richie, that's what it means. It's like,
all right, wicked.
It's like,
cool,
you have a hole in this like in browser that we can polyfill. We can actually just pretend like it exists until it exists. So it's like fixing it. That's what they use it, polyfill. They just use that word because it's funny.
Yeah, no, I've not actually read it yet. I've just sort of pasted a link in case it was any of interest to you guys. But from what I understand, it is a polyfill that will let you use ECMAScript 6 now, which looks pretty cool.
See, this is
have you guys looked at any of the NoSQL things? This is one of the things I want.
It's like isn't
it just saving everything in text pads?
I think so.
It's like file based. I mean, they have their uses. But everyone's like, this is the solution, this is the savior, MongoDB's the savior, etc., etc. Where, relational databases solve a problem, and so will these. Like, you've got a lot of different different products that will solve other things, and a NoSQL movement in quotes. There's actually a really good book called 7 Databases in 7 Weeks, and I've actually got a hard copy of that too, which is quite weird for me. And what that is it's like, talks about relational databases, it talks about document databases, which is like Mongo, it talks about key value databases like React and Redis, and it shows you the pros and cons and the cap theory, which is like you can only have 2 of these things, which you can have: consistency, availability, or what's the other one? Tolerance, I think it is. Persistence, sorry. Consistency, availability, or persistence. Mm-hmm. So you can either have consistency and availability, but you can't have persistence, or you can have availability and persistence, but you couldn't have consistency or something. And it's quite interesting. Like you really, there's no one size fits all. We all kind of assume that like a relational database, we're just going to use that. But for different projects, we've kind of come into this new world of like, we can actually use different database stores and stuff for different things. Yeah, which is quite cool.
Mm. Yeah, I can't make my mind up whether to. I mean, I like MySQL.
Well, I mean, I've kind of shifted my liking to Postgres now, and I would actually say have a look at Postgres.
Okay,
you will.
Because that's been around for quite a long time, hasn't it?
And it's kind of like the dev love. Postgres has got some very cool features, like a lot more advanced stuff that you can do. You can do like windowing, where you can do like these really cool indexing, but like a lot more advanced indexing of things. And also you can do stuff like, it has so many more data types, like JSON data types. You can store stuff in JSON formats. You can actually use it like a document database.
That's cool.
And yeah, Postgres just is the database that keeps on giving, because they keep updating it and they keep adding so many cool features.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I used to be on MySQL. Really, I was only on MySQL because that's what I knew, and that's what we used to use at work. So I kind of learnt that, and I learnt how to, do master slave stuff with that and everything. But now I'm using Postgres, and I'm like, if I was doing my own projects now and I needed a relational database, I would use Postgres.
Yeah. Have you spent any time with local storage? This is probably slightly a bit of a tangent.
No, that's all right. No, I haven't actually.
I was having a real headache with it. It's fine. It's just kind of like the same way you'd use sessions and cookies and stuff, I guess.
Just a key value kind of set that.
Exactly, yeah. But I was having a real struggle with it, and just in case anyone gets something different, like I'd saved an array into it, and then I was doing I was trying to work out if a value was in this array that I'd saved to local storage, and I must have spent about an hour like, this isn't working. And then every time a console logged this value, it wasn't coming up with an array, it was coming up with just a comma separated thing. And it took me such a long time, and I had to do a bit of a Google to find out, because you can't save arrays into local storage. You save data as JSON.
Oh, you have
so
to
when I was putting so when I was saving an array into local storage, it was automatically joining it with a comma.
Yep.
So I was just getting a comma separated list, and I just thought it was like a quirk in the console. It's just spitting the array out. It's just displaying like that. But it turned out it was a real pain. But it was easily stored by kind of JSON encoding and then JSON decoding it afterwards. But it was one of those like real idiot, like beat your head against the wall moments. And it's So if anybody has any issues,
it's when you don't expect it. I mean, actually, in that kind of case, it's kind of doing something bad. It's kind of doing something for you that you don't expect it to do.
Yes.
So actually, it's their fault, because even though they think they're trying to be clever by, we'll just save you some time, we'll just save it like this. Well, you don't know you're going to be saving it. Really, it would actually be better for it to throw and say, look, we can't save an array.
Yeah. I'll go with that. That definitely.
Because then you'd be like, I can't save an array. Of course, I need to string I can only save strings or something. So it's not your fault; it's their fault. That's what I like. Just blame them. They shouldn't stop. They should stop being so clever. With like trying to make it. Stop being. Don't be clever.
Stop trying to help me out.
I know exactly, because you didn't help me out, because I spent hours working out why you say. And they even didn't even save it in a JSON format. They saved it in a format that you could easily break. Come God, these people, you know.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah, because I spent so much time like console login and using that debugger function as well, and it's like I'm inspecting the value, and it's inspecting the value I'm looking for, and inspecting the array in quotation marks.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it was like, no, that number's 100% in there, and I'm like, for the love of God, and then kind of did a search saying,
what's going
like,
on here?
Yeah, trying to do and I think it was an underscore in array. Underscore's a good JavaScript library.
Oh, underscore's awesome, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
there's
really
a couple
cool.
of like, it just saves you from having to implement that.
There's a
yourself.
lot of redundancy between when you're using that and jQuery. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of overlapping, which is a bit unnecessary. I say unnecessary, but
at work, do you still use then jQuery? Is that kind of a default go-to
it is,
as well?
Yeah, I just love jQuery. Like jQuery is awesome. It's just too I know jQuery not better than I should. Because obviously you can't know it too well, but I know it too much because I rely on it too much.
Well, no, I think
I'm same here, I would say.
It's like, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, even though people are going out of fashion with it, it's still pretty much part of the web. Like, you just expect jQuery to be there, $, to be jQuery.
Oh, it's a wonderful thing, jQuery.
You know, and everyone's got it in their caches, so why not use it? But
I think it's great.
No, that's cool, man. That's cool. Like, I do have a random tangent myself, actually, just before, and then I will stop talking, is actually, so... I was talking to you, Lou, today about my media server setup at home.
Yeah.
And I thought actually I'd send you the links of what I've got because I'm actually quite happy now with my setup. So I use this thing called XBMC. Well, now it's called Kodi, and I actually use the distribution, which is an Ubuntu distribution with it on, and I've got like a little net-top box that I use that stores. I've got a Drobo, which is like redundant RAID storage, and I have my media on there, and then I'm able to play it from my computer or through my TV and stuff hooked up to for HDMI, which is awesome. And then I've also added on there so people who are at home can use it, and also can use it at work, and my girlfriend can use it at her house, like Subsonic. And Subsonic's this Java application which allows you to store your media, and view it and display and play it through the web browser, which is quite cool. I also then have Transmission, which is the BitTorrent ISO downloads. You know, obviously,
what do you use that for?
Linux distributions primarily, seeding those. So that's all you're going to get from me. So I've got those two set up, and the way that I get around. So I then use these are all set up on separate ports. I use like port 6060 for Subsonic's own server. They use Jetty in there, I think, and then Transmission uses its own one on 7070. I use that, so 6060 and 7070. And I could have opened those ports up to the real world. So the real world, I could have gone in and used it. But I thought, actually, it'd be quite nice to use something like Nginx and use a reverse proxy. And what actually happens is those ports are only locally accessible. And then Nginx, I actually then route them using Nginx to those ports kind of internally, which is quite cool. So to the real world, and then I've set it up so port 80 on my IP address to the real world then just goes to Nginx. I can then use something like I use this HTTP digest, like simple authentication, that allows then all of us to come into the house, go into it, access these different services, all through like a normal, nice, /music, /transmission torrents or whatever. So it's working really well. And actually, I've got a subdomain on my own domain that I use for my IP and stuff. So I just think if you're ever thinking about setting up a media kind of center thing, just with net-top box, think about Kodi, and also think about Subsonic. It's so cool. It's like Spotify, but just for your media collection that you've already got, and you can use it on your mobile and stuff. And there's apps for it that you can
That sounds really cool.
And
also, no need for iCloud and all that stuff.
Well, no, I mean this is the cool thing, and it's really quite spiffy. And there was another thing I started using, which was OwnCloud, which was kind of like a Dropbox, your own Dropbox, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I did end up going back to Dropbox because they have a terabyte for £70 a year, and I thought for my pictures and stuff I just load it up on there. So, but yeah, there's a lot of if you want to set up your own server, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use, and a lot of services, a lot of these things. And there's another one I'm looking at now is Plex, which one of my housemates Dave he mentioned. So I'm looking into that now, but at the moment, these seem to be doing well, and it's pretty cool that I can just access my media whenever I want, wherever I want, at home. I mean, at work, at lunchtime, I may watch Breaking Bad. Well, my girlfriend's watching that, or I watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it's pretty cool. Check what your torrents are doing and whatnot. Yeah. Those Linux distributions. So that's me. That's my ramble for the day. Awesome. Anyway, has anyone, Fraser, have you got anything else you would like to?
No, I think I've touched on everything that I wanted to bring up.
Yes.
Yes, I have.
And Lewis, anything else you would like to talk about, sir?
I don't think so at this particular moment in time. No, mine was mainly talking about the OOP stuff, which we've done. So
no, that's cool, man. That was interesting. Let me know how you're going with the solid principles. And it very much is it's a learning curve of like, oh man, actually that makes sense. And yeah, it's cool that Jeffrey Way's doing that. Laracast,
he's doing a brilliant job.
I kind of feel bad, not bad, but I kind of feel maybe it was a discredit to himself, like to call it Laracasts. If he's going to be touching on so many different things other than Laravel, it very much kind of makes you think...
Shoehorns him.
Yeah, into like only doing Laravel stuff, which I know is like the hip cool thing, but why not this material if obviously it's being used for a lot of other things? I think people kind of get that with like the Uncle Bob stuff and the Martin Fowler, where it's very much Java-centric, but really it could be done with a lot of other languages. You could, these things could cross over into other languages. Yeah. Even with frameworks, it's like, why... say you're only doing it, Laracast, it's obviously a Laravel, video casting.
Yeah.
But actually, if these things are not for that, then call it something else. Just call it casts.
Exactly.
Just for anything, So maybe one day I want to do yoga or something, There you go. Yeah. Jeffrey Way does yoga.
It's worth subscribing just for Jeffrey Way himself, because he, to me, he's probably one of the best guys out there for teaching and making stuff understandable. So
absolutely.
So I don't watch a massive amount of the Laravel videos because I don't really actively use Laravel at the moment.
Yep.
Whether that will change, whether I'll pick that over Symfony, I don't know.
So there was a topic there actually. Your own framework, yes. Are you thinking then of moving away from using your own framework and going back to one of the other ones, or?
Well, possibly. I mean, this is kind of tying back into what I said about me realising that a lot of the code wasn't probably as good as it needed to be. So. For the purposes of using it in production and the possibilities of maybe having to share it with other people and other people using it, then it makes sense to use a mainstream framework, I guess. But I don't know. I'm back and forth with it at the moment.
And what are the likely ones? You got Laravel 5, Symfony.
Well, I'd be interested to see what they do with the new Code Igniter, if anything.
Code Igniter 3. Wow. Yeah.
Because that was my first framework love. So
you always have your first love. You never forget.
I hold the torch. And what was the other one? Name some names.
Cake
my mind's gone blank.
Kahana.
Yee.
No.
Yee. I love Yee.
Actually, no. Yee's all right.
Yee's got better, hasn't it? I think.
It might have been Kahana. Actually, no, it's not Kahana. Oh,
Cake.
Talk amongst yourselves, but no. Cake possibly.
Yeah, what was the other?
But that's not the one. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds.
There is another app that actually I wouldn't mind. I started using a couple of days ago. Like in good old Windows, you can actually, I'm going to actually say Windows 7 even, you could drag with Windows and say, I can drag this over to the side and it will use up half the screen.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, that is cool. And you don't do that on the Mac, and it really annoys me.
Yeah.
So I found this app, and it's pretty cheap, but then it makes your, the full screen mode that you... full screen button, which now gets ruined because it now is a full screen button on Yosemite, where it used to just be expanding and zooming it. It makes that into the ability to then just be able to move it around easily, and you can use it as keyboard shortcuts and stuff. So you can easily set up your screen, especially on a laptop where real estate's vital, and you don't have to mess around with this is only half the So anyway, go for it, Luke.
I found Falcon.
Falcon, Falcon PHP, the C one. Oh,
yeah.
That would be interesting.
The interesting thing, I look at job adverts a lot. Not because I'm specifically looking for a job, but I'm quite interested to see
what's out there and what they want.
Seeing what skills people are looking for, basically, and I'm seeing Falcon crop up a lot, which seems a bit.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, just on a lot of the things I've seen, have said about Falcon, and looking on the framework thing for 2014, Falcon actually comes in behind Laravel.
Well, what's that? Have you got a link then for the most popular frameworks?
Best PHP frameworks 2014.
Oh,
we go Laravel, Falcon, Symfony 2, Code Igniter, Yee, Aura, Cake, and then I'm guessing Zender's forget about it now.
Well, it's again like Symfony, where it's big companies use it. So is that how do they do their stats? I'm always intrigued. And is it like downloads? Because I don't know if all these companies and people actually distribute how many they download, and or is it literally just I think it's maybe just them going, actually I prefer this one to this one for now.
Someone could have actually made this list. Actually, no. This graph is at the end of 2013. Sorry, not 14.
Maybe 3devs. We should make our own list of favorite.
We should,
and stuff for everyone.
So developers of frameworks. If you want to pay us some money, we'll get a higher place in
your frameworks. Like.
So Taylor Otwell, how much do you want to give us to put Laravel at the top?
But the main framework on job adverts that I see is still Symfony and always has been.
Yeah.
More and more Laravel these days, but on mainstream like I don't know, Job is Job and those kind of sites, not the actual like Stack Careers and those kind of things. The Symfony is asked for a lot more from what I've seen than Laravel.
It's very business oriented. It's a very good framework for it. It is very good.
So it kind of, as a PHP developer, it feels like something that I have to have in my armor.
I think you just learn a lot from it. I mean, I've learned a lot from using it, and you can kind of. I mean, that's a nice thing, but I think with frameworks and stuff, I find them more of a learning tool as well as using them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember learning loads from using CodeIgniter. I remember learning loads from using Laravel. I remember loads now from using Symfony.
Yeah.
In like the Python world, I've learned quite a bit from using Django, and you kind of just learn stuff from using, how they've built things and how they've used the language and stuff like that.
I can't recommend highly enough people to seriously build their own PHP framework just as an exercise in your own time, if nothing else.
Yeah,
because you've definitely, because I mean the way you speak about it and stuff, you're saying, oh, this code now, obviously you're thinking it's bad, but then that shows how much growth you've been able to do because of actually building this. And it's actually, I think you should get some blogging going on, sir, about how you implemented something one way and now you think you should do it another way. Because
I can get it up on GitHub as well.
Yes, sir, we want this on GitHub, but you're still not letting us on it.
Because it'll be good to have out, even in terms of, obviously you're not looking for work now, but if in the future you're looking for work, it shows so much
care and
get up and go and care, and that you actually you care, because if you've got your own framework out there, how many people have built their own framework? I'd never do it because I'm lazy.
Everyone's saying don't reinvent the wheel. I really, really hate that attitude.
But it's not
to things
because it's learning.
Wheels are perfect anyway. You can't better wheels,
perfect,
but
no,
undefeated.
If everyone stops reinventing the wheel, then all right, everything grinds to a halt right now, doesn't it? But it seems to be an okay phrase to use in the web world, but it's not one that sits well with me, and not one that I'll ever.
No, it shouldn't.
Absolutely, Matt. Sorry about that, by the way, that random I
was going to say.
I accidentally, so I've got the micro Uber key, the micro little thing you can plug into your laptop. It's actually quite cool because it fits.
Oh, so is that one of your passwords then?
That's actually a random password. If I press it again, you'll get another one. It's a proper.
Oh, God,
yeah. So there you go. There's another one. But if you accidentally press it, it obviously then spits out this lovely gibberish.
So Ed's Gmail password.
Ed's DL. But yeah. Sorry about that, but no, Lou, I agree completely. Though, I mean, people do kind of, obviously, reinventing the wheel is bad in the sense if you just write it because you want to write it for the sheer fact of you don't want to touch anyone else's code.
If it's something that you can do yourself, obviously, then fair enough. But if you're relying on something else and there's the risk of that thing breaking and then you're in trouble, then that's dangerous, I think.
And if you don't spend the time to learn it, because as I say, half the reason why I use frameworks, half the reason why I like using frameworks, because I learn stuff from them. And you pick up ways of doing things, and it's I think the one thing to learn is to never get kind of tied down to one thing, because I was upset when CodeIgniter kind of fell. But at the same time, it was actually, new things come up, new people, different things, and you don't want to get too stuck down to one thing.
Have those Canadians started doing anything notable with CodeIgniter yet?
We've got CodeIgniter 3, and
is it out now?
I think it is out, available. Let me have a look.
No.
I think I don't know whether it's actually complete.
Seems a bit soon,
but there is actually. So what happened was, I think we talked about it last week, was 5.2 is the release, their lowest PHP release that you can do with it, and people were very much kind of oh dear, that's not good. But yeah, you can download, there you go, you can download the development branch of CodeIgniter 3, so if you want to play around with it, guys, go for it.
I might do that tonight, actually.
Have a little play, see what you think about it.
That'd be cool.
Oh dear. Well, anyway, guys, I think I haven't got anything else to say. I don't know if you guys have got anything else to say.
No, I'm good.
Awesome.
I'm good.
I think it's been an awesome podcast, guys. And
nice chatting away.
Yeah, nice.
Absolutely.
We had a couple of good topics there. Well, a lot of good topics, actually. And we will see you next week, guys.
Beautiful.
Take care.
Bye.
Nice to speak to you all.
Bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.